The R code that I show in this video is available on Elms, and you may want to take a minute to download it and open it if you'd like to follow along on your own. In this video, we'll cover some basics of dealing with tidy data in Tibbles. By the end of this video, you should understand what basic features are available for exploring the contents of a Tibble. As you'll remember from the last video, a Tibble is the tidyverse preferred method of storing tidy data. As a prerequisite, loading and manipulating Tibbles requires that you have the tidyverse library installed and loaded in your R session. Remember that Tibbles hold tidy data. In the tidy data format, every column in the Tibble is going to have a name. These names must be unique. This is how you're going to refer to them later. Standard column names in Tibbles look like variable names, so they can start with a letter, and they can contain letters, numbers, periods, and underscores. But actually, any characters are allowed. If you have characters other than these in your Tibble names, then the name must be surrounded by backticks. Finally, every column in a Tibble has a data type, and every value in that column is going to be of the exact same data type. A Tibble is also going to contain 0 or more rows. Each row is numbered, and every row contains a value of the correct data type, or an NA, for each column in the Tibble. So throughout this course, and in data science in general, you're usually going to create Tibbles by loading data from data files. The next section of the course covers the commands you would use to load data into Tibbles. Very rarely do you actually create Tibbles by hand. Today, just to use an example, we're going to use a dataset that's actually built into R. It's called the iris dataset. We're going to explore a sample Tibble in R, but there's a few things we need to do first. Foremost, if you're manipulating Tibbles, they're part of the tidyverse library, so you need to load that library first. I'm just going to go ahead and do that before I do anything else. Now that I've loaded the tidyverse, I can actually deal with Tibbles in R. So the Tibble we're going to create comes from one of R's built-in datasets. This is the iris dataset. You can learn about it by reading the help file, which is just typing in help with iris in quotes. Now, if you take a look over in the viewer, it tells you a little bit about this dataset. There's not much to say about it. It tells you the variables that are contained within it. And most importantly, you can see this dataset was created in 1936. R's built-in datasets can be accessed just like a variable. So if I enter iris into the console, what you can see is it prints out a bunch of information. This is the full iris dataset. The iris dataset is built into R as a data frame. We're going to use Tibbles in this course, and so I'd like to convert that data frame into a Tibble. The way that I can do that is using the as_Tibble function. So I'm going to take the iris dataset, feed it through as_Tibble, and create a new variable called iris.tibble, TBL, that contains the new Tibble of data. So I'll run that, and you see up in the Environment Explorer, I now have a new item. It's iris.tbl. The summary tells me it has 150 observations and 5 variables. So now that we have data in a Tibble, one of the most basic sets of tasks that we can do on a Tibble is seeing what we actually have inside of our dataset. Tibbles might actually have many attributes that you care about. So you may wonder what the actual data are in the Tibble. You may wonder what the column or variable names are in the Tibble. You may wonder what the data type of each column is. Or you may be curious about how many rows there are in your Tibble. The best approach for determining these types of information depends on the type of information that you're interested in. So how can we explore the data in our Tibble? First, you can use the Environment Explorer. You can look at your Tibble in the upper right-hand corner. You can see all of the column names and data types, and you can double-click on your Tibble to explore the data inside of it. The View function is equivalent to double-clicking on your Tibble in the Environment Explorer. It's going to open it up in the editor window and let you take a look at it. The Print function prints out a limited piece of information about Tibbles, including values, column names, and the first few rows. The Glimpse function is designed to look at all of the variables in your Tibble. So it's going to display one variable per row. It's going to show you the data type, the variable name, and some contents of each variable. Now let's actually inspect our Tibble in R. The easiest way to do it is using the Environment Explorer. So again, that's in the upper right-hand corner. You can see that under the data heading, there's the iris.tibble that we created just a minute ago. R tells me it has 150 observations and 5 variables. If I'd like to see what those variables are, I can click the little blue arrow next to the variable name. You see it expands in a dropdown. It tells me the name of each variable, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species. And it also tells me the data type for each column. So the first 4 columns are numeric. That's a shorthand for double precision numbers. The last is a factor. Remember, we created this from an R data frame. You normally won't encounter factors in the tidyverse, but because we converted a data frame that contained a factor, the factor carried over to our Tibble. It won't cause us any trouble for what we're going to do today, but you could run into problems in the future if you have factors. The other way that we can explore this Tibble using the Environment Explorer is to double-click on the variable itself, this iris.tbl. Double-clicking on that opens up a new window in the editor space, which is actually a table of all the data in that Tibble. So you notice that I can scroll downwards through it and take a look at every observation. Let's take a look at some other R commands that one might use to explore data. The first is the view command, so I can use the view function with the name of the Tibble that I want to explore inside of it. I'll enter that, and you'll notice that that same window that we saw before, created by the Environment Explorer, shows up in the editor window that allows us to look at the entire table of data. In fact, when you double-click on a variable in the Environment Explorer, all that's happening is R is running the view command on that variable. There are some other helpful commands. So the print command is going to print out a portion of the Tibble in the output window. So I enter print with the name of my Tibble, and you can see that some information has printed out in the R console. I'll scroll back up just a little bit to show you all of it. And you can see it starts out by telling me information about the Tibble. It has 150 rows and 5 columns. It then gives me each of the variable names, followed by the data types for each column, and then lastly the data that's contained within the Tibble. Notice, however, that R only prints out 10 rows of data and then tells me there's 140 more rows. This is common. Frequently, your Tibbles will have thousands of rows in them, and you don't want to clog up the output window just printing out thousands of rows. Lastly, there's the glimpse command. Glimpse is focused on showing you information about each of the columns in your Tibble. So again, I run glimpse with the name of my Tibble inside parentheses, and you'll see what R shows me here is one row for each column of the Tibble. It shows me the name of that column, the data type in that column, and then a sampling of some of the data inside. This is very similar to the information that you see in the Environment Explorer. And in fact, the Environment Explorer is probably your go-to whenever you want to see what kind of information is contained in a Tibble.